You've heard of Rosa Parks, right? The woman who refused to give up her seat on a bus. But is the story really as simple as they told us in school? What if I told you that this seemingly small act was actually a carefully planned spark that set a nation ablaze and changed the course of history forever? Today, we're going to uncover the true story behind the moment that defined Rosa Parks and the civil rights movement in the United States. This is not just a story about a bus seat. It's a story about courage, strategy, and a lifetime dedicated to the fight for justice. To understand the power of that day, December 1st, 1955, we need to travel back in time to the American South of that era. Imagine living in a place where the color of your skin determines where you can sit, where you can drink water, where you can go to school, and even which door of a building you can use. This was the brutal reality of racial segregation laws, known as Jim Crow laws. In Montgomery, Alabama, where Rosa Parks lived, the buses were a microcosm of this daily injustice. The front seats were reserved for white people, the back seats were for black people, and there was a section in the middle, a gray area where black people could sit, but only if no white people needed the seat. If a white passenger came on board and there were no seats left in the white section, the bus driver had the power to order black passengers to give up their seats. It wasn't just a rule, it was a daily humiliation, a constant reminder of their second-class citizen status. Now, let's talk about Rosa Parks. The popular image paints her as a tired seamstress who acted on impulse that day. Yes, she was a seamstress, and yes, she was tired. But their exhaustion was much deeper than mere physical fatigue. It was the weariness of a lifetime of fighting against oppression. Rosa Parks was not an accidental activist. On the contrary, she was an experienced and deeply committed activist. Years before the famous incident on the bus, she was already the secretary for the local chapter of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. She investigated cases of racial violence, registered black voters, a dangerous act at the time, and worked tirelessly alongside her husband, Raymond Parks, who was also an activist. She participated in workshops on civil disobedience and protest organization. Her refusal to get up was not an isolated act of a tired woman. It was a conscious decision by a trained activist who knew exactly what she was doing and what the consequences could be. And here's a fascinating detail that often gets overlooked. It wasn't the first time Rosa Parks had a problem with that same bus driver, James Blake. 12 years earlier in 1943, Blake tried to force her off the bus and re-enter through the back door after she had already paid her fare at the front, a common humiliating practice at the time. Instead of submitting, Rosa Parks got off the bus and waited for the next one. That previous encounter shows that her resistance didn't just come out of nowhere. It was a principle she had carried with her for a long, long time. Therefore, when they met again on that fateful December day, history was bound to repeat itself, but this time, the outcome would be very different. So, what exactly happened on that 1st of December, 1955? Rosa Parks boarded the bus after work. She sat in the first row of the colored section. As the bus filled up, some white passengers were left standing. The driver, James Blake, looked in the mirror and ordered Rosa and 3 other black passengers to give up their seats so that a white man could sit. The other 3 stood up. Rosa Parks didn't move. She simply looked out the window. Blake came closer and asked, "Are you going to stand up?" And her answer, calm yet firm, echoed throughout history. "No." He threatened to call the police, and she replied, "Go ahead," and that's what he did. Rosa Parks was arrested for violating Montgomery's segregation laws. Her arrest was the catalyst. The news spread quickly through the black community thanks to the efforts of activists like E.D. Nixon, president of the local chapter of the NAACP. They saw in that prison the perfect opportunity they had been waiting for. Why Rosa Parks? Because she was the ideal person to be the face of a movement. Before her, other women, like the brave teenager Claudette Colvin, had done the same, but civil rights leaders hesitated to build a case around them. Claudette, for example, was very young and got pregnant shortly after. The leaders feared that their personal lives could be used to discredit the movement. But Rosa Parks was different. She was a respected woman in the community with an impeccable reputation, a stable job, and a strong involvement with the church. Her image of dignity and calm made her the perfect figure to symbolize the injustice of segregation. They knew that no one could attack her character. And Nixon later said, "If we were ever going to get the support of white people, I knew we had to have a person that nobody could find fault with." And that person was Rosa Parks. Her arrest sparked one of the most effective and successful protests in American history, the Montgomery Bus Boycott. On the night of Rosa's arrest, activists gathered and decided to organize a one-day boycott. Thousands of pamphlets were printed and distributed. The message was simple. On the day of Rosa Parks' trial, the Black community would not use the buses. The success was thunderous. That Monday, the buses that normally carried thousands of Black passengers ran almost empty. Inspired by this initial success, the leaders, including a young pastor newly arrived in the city named Martin Luther King Jr., decided to continue the boycott. What started as a one-day protest turned into a campaign that lasted 381 days. 381 days in which tens of thousands of Black people refused to use the buses. Imagine the logistics of that. People had to go to work, to school, to the shops. How did they get around? The community organized itself in an extraordinary way. They created a complex carpooling system. Black taxi drivers agreed to charge the same fare as a bus ticket. Others simply walked, sometimes for miles, every day, under the hot Alabama sun or in the cold rain. It was an immense sacrifice, but solidarity was stronger. Martin Luther King Jr., who emerged as the movement's charismatic leader during the boycott, said in one of his famous speeches, "Our feet are tired, but our souls are rested." This phrase perfectly captured the community's spirit, a physical exhaustion that was worth it for the dignity and hope of a better future. The boycott had a devastating economic impact on the bus company and downtown merchants, but the city refused to give in. Boycott participants faced harassment, threats, and violence. The homes of Martin Luther King Jr. and Nixon were bombed, but they did not give up. While the boycott continued in the streets, the legal battle advanced in the courts. The NAACP sued the city of Montgomery, arguing that segregation on buses was unconstitutional. The case, known as Browder v. Gale, went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And finally, on November 13, 1956, almost a year after Rosa Parks' refusal, the Supreme Court ruled segregation on public buses was, in fact, unconstitutional. The victory was monumental. On December 20, 1956, the boycott was officially over. The next day, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., and other leaders boarded a Montgomery bus and, for the first time, sat wherever they wanted. But Rosa Parks' story doesn't end with the boycott. Her life after Montgomery was anything but easy. Due to her notoriety, she and her husband lost their jobs. They faced constant death threats and harassment. The pressure was so immense that, in 1957, the Parks family decided to move to Detroit. Far from retreating from public life, Rosa Parks continued her activism. She worked in the office of Congressman John Conyers, Jr., for over 20 years, helping the community and continuing to fight for civil rights, for housing, and education. She traveled the world, speaking about her experience and inspiring new generations of activists. She never saw herself as a passive icon, but as a soldier in the long fight for freedom. She received the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian honors in the United States. Rosa Parks' story teaches us much more than just the importance of defending what we believe in. It shows us that great social movements don't happen by chance. They're the result of years of work, planning, and sacrifice. It teaches us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite fear. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches us that a single person, with one conscious decision, can trigger a change that affects millions. Rosa Parks didn't want to be a hero. She just wanted to be treated with the dignity every human being deserves. And by demanding that dignity for herself, she helped achieve it for everyone. Her legacy isn't just about a bus seat. It's a powerful reminder that the fight for justice and equality is a marathon, not a sprint, and that every single step, no matter how small it seems, truly counts. Thank you for watching and for joining us on this journey through the incredible life of Rosa Parks. If you like this video and want to learn more about the figures who shaped and changed our history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, activate the bell so you don't miss the next episodes. See you in the next video.